Sunny ways, my friends. Sunny ways.
Your 16 seconds are up. I'm going to ask you again because nobody believes you when you say you don't know how much money your family has got from the wheat group. You've had a month to look into that. You knew you were going to testify here. Again, how much money total have your brother, mother, and spouse received from this organization? How much?
That information has been publicly shared, but I will highlight.
Well, then tell me what it is.
Can you dig it? Can you dig it? Can you dig it?
We have recently switched to drinking water bottles out of water out of when we have water bottles out of plastic. Away from plastic towards paper, like drink box water bottles sort of thing. Sorry?
The servicing costs on the debt that you're going to have to carry that you're adding to now, right?
Interest rates are at historic lows, Glenn.
Where's the funds?
On the topic, I mean, in terms of your sort of strategy currently, you're obviously taking the populist pathway.
What does that mean? Oh, Justin, you're awake. You made it. Have a seat. Have a coffee. You need some. Wakey time.
Let's cut that Disney Plus subscription. So we cut it. It's only $13.99 a month that we're saving, but every little bit helps.
A lot of people would say that you're simply taking a page out of the Donald Trump book.
Which people would say that?
Well, I'm sure a great many Canadians, but...
Like who?
I don't know who, but...
Well, you're the one who asked the question, so
yeah.
You must know somebody. Yeah, that's all that's coming off. There's nothing else coming off, yeah. I'm not Justin Trudeau here.
What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the Fringe. Welcome to Friday Night Fringe here on the channel, where we get into all the good stuff that's come this week, all the great stuff that we know of that's coming up, and my favorite part of the entire evening, back and forth with this community. Man, already almost 200 people in the chat already. Thank you for joining us here on the live stream. Apparently, YouTube has been censoring the hell out of this channel lately, and people aren't notified about the live stream. So if you're in the live stream, click that thumbs up, start chatting, let people know out in the algorithm by hitting that thumbs up. This is something worth watching because, boy, do we have a lot to talk about tonight. And those YouTube censors be damned. We're going to get it on. So let's start it off with how we usually start our live streams. It's always fun and interactive. Let's do our usual weekly roll call. Let's see if we can get somebody from every province in the country joining us here on live stream. Give me a shout out. Let me know if it's your first time here, or if you're a longtime viewer and where you're from, and let's get it started. Now, again, there's a lot of people in here, so if we can't get to everybody, my apologies, folks. I'll get to as many as I can. Let's get started. Okay. We got Scott McDonald coming in from Sasky Trash. There's nothing trashy about Sask. Come on, welcome into the stream. We got Crazy Grandma. Good evening from Portage, Manitoba. I'm assuming it's Portage La Prairie. Awesome town. Welcome into the stream. We got Giles, I guess, coming in from Ontario. Welcome to the stream. Good old Tammy Eldridge joining us once again from Elliott Lake, Ontario. Welcome back into the stream. Blackface Son of Castro from Windsor, Nova Scotia. We've got Brian coming in from Vernon, BC. We've got Blonde Lynn coming in from Saskatchewan. Non-compliant Canadian. Greetings from Eastern Ontario. Let's all take the Canadian pledge to never vote for the Liberals or NDP again. We're going to get into that. I feel like they've signed their own death wish, but we're going to talk about that tonight on the stream. Welcome in, everyone. Tammy Robinson, longtime viewer in Perth, Ontario. Yeah, Tammy, you're always here. Thank you so much for joining us. Great to see you in here. We got Andrea Sanders, third-time viewer. Welcome into the stream. Derek Macbeth, friend of the channel, long-time local in Calgary. Welcome into the stream. Got some stuff about Calgary to talk about tonight, especially. Sean Stevenson from London, Ontario. We've got Kenny coming in, or Carrie, sorry, coming in from Calgary. Welcome into all of you. We've got Steph joining us from Whitecourt, Alberta. We've got CB coming in from BC. Poet and didn't know it. We've got new Mike coming in from Edmundston, New Brunswick. Welcome in everyone to the stream. Scott McDonald, first time live from Saskatchewan. Welcome in. Great to see new viewers here in the chat. We got H coming in from Toronto. Jeff coming in from Claresholm. I'm assuming that's Claresholm, Alberta. Welcome in. Nice town, Claresholm. Brian coming in from Vernon, BC. Cool Hand Luke coming in saying FJT. Welcome into the stream. Micah coming in from Edmonton, Alberta. Bill Flegg saying, I love your intro. It's sick. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Welcome into the stream. Great to see you here. We've got Lazy Smokin' Jay coming in from Calgary. We've got Daria coming in from beautiful Kamloops. It is beautiful. Welcome into the stream. Carrie Legatt coming in from Calgary, or I'm assuming Calgary. It says love Calgary. Hopefully you're coming in from, that means you're coming in from Calgary. If not, welcome into the stream regardless. Scott McDonald, that's what the Albertans call us. Oh, come on. It's not that bad. We've got Mech coming in from Portage. Oh, no, saying Portage. Wow, cool. Welcome into the stream. My apologies there. Trying to get all these read at one time. Sometimes you mess up. Lori coming in Kingston, Ontario. We got Mystical, New York, New York from Futurama. Welcome into the stream. Crazy Grandma says, yes, that's Portage La Prairie. Nice town. Welcome into the stream. It's always great to see you. We've got Ange coming in once again from Huntsville, Ontario. Welcome in. We got Lynn B, longtime viewer, coming in from Strathmore, Alberta. Welcome back in, everybody. We've got Gayton coming in from Montreal. Welcome into the stream. We got Roger coming in from Victoria, BC. I hear there's affordable apartments there for roughly $500,000. Welcome into the stream. At least that's what Christian Freeland says. We've got Patty Nelson joining us again, living rent-free in Justine Dildo's head. Welcome in, coming in from BC. Who else we got here? Let me see. Long time East Armpit of New Brunswick. Sharon, welcome into the stream. We got Mitchell coming in from Steinbach, Manitoba. Good old Steinbach. Guy, every time I hear Steinbach, I always think of those old car commercials from the 80s when I grew up in Winnipeg. Love Steinbach. No regrets coming in from Brandon, Manitoba. Let's go, Brandon. Welcome into the stream. Sherry coming in Alberta bound. Welcome in. Great to see you guys. We got Patty coming in from Ontario. We've got Angela coming in from Martok, Nova Scotia. Carrie also mentioning that I'm the best. I'm flattered. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us. Great. Again, thank you. There's so much support on this channel, and I got to get into some of the support that came this week. We're going to talk about the elephant in the room, our good old April Fool's gag that went horribly wrong. We're not going to spend too much time on it, but I did want to address it. We've got Hey Driver, Just in Time coming in from London, Ontario. Welcome into the stream. We've got Sharon saying, great intro. Thank you so much. In the house from Gatineau. Welcome in from Gatineau. So you're right near Ottawa. Welcome in. It's great to see you. Gatineau is a beautiful town. I had the pleasure of stepping in there briefly when I went to Ottawa not too long ago, but it just gorgeous town. Welcome into the stream. Great to see you. We've got Brian coming in from Mission, BC. We've got Mike coming in from Trent Hills, Ontario. First time here. Welcome to the Fringe. Welcome into the stream. We got Joseph coming in from Sylvan Lake, Alberta. I spent my weekend in Sylvan last week. Beautiful town. Love it. Domino coming in from Innisfail, Alberta. Welcome in. Great to see you. We've got Marina coming in from Manitoba. We've got Lovebug coming in from Calgary. Good old Calgary. Sorry, my throat closing on there. Barry's Bay, Ontario with Michael. Welcome in, everyone. Peter's coming in from Cancun. That's close to Porno Viagra, if I'm not mistaken. But welcome in. Great to see you. Good old Cancun. I bet the weather's a lot nicer than it is in Calgary, where we just got snow. Marilyn Haley coming in from Kingston, Ontario. Great to see you in here, everybody. Cool Hand Luke, Renfrew, Ontario. Where else do we got here? We've got Andy coming in from Red Deer. Phoebe Long coming in from Innisfail. Crypto saying, yes, kidney for sale. I need rent. Well, listen, I'd offer one of my kidneys, but somebody would probably pay me to take it back. They wouldn't want it. We've got Larry coming in from Port Elgin, Ontario, and many, many more. Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize. There's so many people in here. Good old, we just hit 420. here in the chat. And if you know what 420 means, put a thumbs up in there. And welcome into the stream, everybody. Again, I don't have time to get to everybody. Again, 420 people. Wow, that is a great start to the stream. And let's, like I said, address the elephant in the room, shall we? Let's talk about April Fool's Day. I put out an apology video and also pulled a video. And again, I know some people have said they're sick and tired of videos being pulled, and that's going to stop here on the channel. I'm going to be a little bit more careful about how things are done here on the streams or on content that's released on the channel. And I guess I kind of want to apologize for the way I apologized, because you have to understand that when I'm on YouTube and when I do YouTube, I try to have fun on this channel. If you can't tell by the room that I broadcast from, again, I'm very limited in my house, but I built this game room with my children while we were all on lockdown because my kids took a liking to arcade games. I had sold off a retro gaming collection and said, hey, let's do something fun. It keeps everybody sane. And well, once I started getting onto YouTube, this was the only space I had available. So you can tell that I'm a collector of toys. I like doing fun stuff. I'm a big kid at heart. So I try to have fun on this channel. And I understand where some people were a little triggered by my April Fool's joke, where I had said in the title of my video that Justin Trudeau had resigned, that it was finally over. I made the mistake of assuming that people would put two and two together and realize it was April 1st, that um, it was more than likely an April Fool's joke. And again, I explained about 30 seconds into the video after the intro that, hey, guys, it is April Fool's. In fact, it was the first topic after the intro that I got into. Again, I'm not making excuses, just simply explaining that I really didn't think it was going to be nearly as bad as it was. Now, that dropped on Monday, and my wife was off work Monday due to the Easter long weekend. She gave me the opportunity to allow me to sleep in for once, because I'm a full-time stay-at-home father while my wife has her career. This is YouTube essentially is my job. This is what I do aside from raising my 3 children. So my wife gave me the morning off. She actually came and woke me up early and said, look, your channel is bleeding subscribers. There are people leaving the channel. The comment section on your video this morning is just negative, negative, negative. I panicked. And I guess you'll notice that if you watch that apology video, I was really down in the dumps, really low. YouTube doesn't stop for me when I post a video. Some people assume that you post a video and walk away. There's a lot of work that goes into YouTube once I'm not on these streams, when I'm not making content, doing research, checking up on articles, talking with my mods in Discord, multiple projects that I have on the go. So for me, it's just kind of an ongoing process. And when you wake up and start getting messages and emails and DMs from people saying that I put them in literal tears and that they're on disability and they can't pay their bills, and I gave them false hope and ruined not even their day, but their life. And it's a lot to bear, and it's a lot to hold on your shoulders when all you're trying to do is have a good time and pass a typical April Fool's joke. Um, I can see in the chat a lot of people saying the joke was funny. I understand. Listen, I felt bad for the way I apologized because I wanted to get an apology out there quickly. Again, I was more disturbed that people felt so hurt by what I did. Now, look, I hugged the cactus, I took my licks, but what really grinds my gears, there's the old Peter Griffin. You know what really grinds my gears? Um, After the apology, I still get people messaging me privately saying, hey, I saw your apology video. You really made me mad. You really ruined my day. You really screwed things up for me. I hate your guts. I hope you run into traffic. All these negative, negative things. And it's like, well, this is why you don't apologize. This is why you don't bow down. And again, I panicked a little because, again, subscribers is something you have to work for on the channel. This is my income on YouTube, and that affects my ability to pay my bills with my kids. So of course I'm going to panic. Of course I'm going to try and do something about it. Um, Things happened where they were, and again, I take ownership for what I did. And a lot of people very supportive in that apology video. A lot of people very outgoingly supportive, saying, "Look, I unsubscribed. I'm going to resubscribe." Some people, took a minute to calm down over it, and I understand that. I fully get that. And people saying, if you're going to run for office, you got to have a thicker skin. if you're going to do these things. Again, it was more, people don't know what I'm facing outside of the YouTube end of it. Again, I understand that people are in a fragile state of mind with the current landscape of the political spectrum in Canada. So to hear that, again, even in my household where we have to think about what are we doing with bills? What are we doing with food costs? What are we doing with gas? What are we doing with all these things, especially with the increase in carbon tax? The last thing I want to do is make somebody cry, upset, ruin their day, ruin their week, their year, their life, however you want to put it. So I genuinely felt bad. Um, but I want to stress though that again, April Fools, people have mixed feelings about April Fools. I'm going to give you guys a little funny April Fool's story from my end and how April Fool's kind of runs in my house, in my home, so that you understand that this was kind of why I came up with the idea that I did. I've always been told that if you're going to do April Fools, you usually want a zinger. You want something big, you know, you go big or go home. When I was in my early 20s and I first moved out, my parents were always into April Fools. I come from a very gag centric, sarcastic family. And my folks called me on the morning of April 1st. I didn't know what day it was. Um, and and they called and said that my dog had been hit by a car. Now, they didn't say he was dead. They said he'd been hit by a car. I had to come home quickly. I lived about 10-minute drive from my folks. So, of course, I jumped out of bed, hopped in the car, went over. They just wanted to go for breakfast, but they told me once I got there, April Fools. And of course, I kind of was angry at first. Um, and then we went out and did our thing, and I told myself, I'm going to get them back. Now, the funny side of the story, I see people saying move along, but trust me, this story is a fun one. Actually, this is actually fun commentary for the stream. So my father is originally from Scotland. He moved to Canada in the '70s on a scholarship or contract to play with Canada for professional soccer in the 1976 Montreal Olympics. So while he was here, he met my mom. They got married. They had a family. But he always kept his British passport. He never actually became a Canadian citizen until the early 2000s, somewhere around 2010. Now, during this time, I wanted to get him back. So the following April Fools, I actually had something set up with my mother where he runs his own family or his own corporation out of the house in commercial refrigeration. He had a convention to go to in Las Vegas about 2 weeks from April Fools, and it was very detrimental for his business to be at this conference. So what I did for April Fools was I actually got my hands on um, a deportation letter from the government of Canada. And I, of course, edited it, changed it, had the letterhead, everything, even went as far as to go to a government office in Calgary and pick up an envelope from their offices. Now, my mom was in on the joke. She knew what was going on. So on April 1st, when I came over to the house, I handed her the envelope and she said she was going out to check the mail, came back, gave this letter to my father. And it basically said that they couldn't verify his marriage to my mother. They were going to deport him, that he had to leave the country within 72 hours and that they'd be checking to make sure that he followed through. He was freaking out because he thought his whole business was going down the toilet. And of course, by the time he started, catching his breath and picking up the phone to call his lawyer, we kind of filled him in on the April Fools. Now, my father still has that letter framed in his office to this day. He still thinks it was a killer April Fool's joke and probably one that won't be outdone in our household. Um, at least hopefully, because that was pretty extreme. But again, that's kind of the way I grew up. It's always been a gag and it's always been fun. So again, when I did my April Fools, I thought, hey, this is something fun to do with my community. And I'm not faulting anybody for not being able to take the joke. It is what it is. So again, I won't do things like that in the future, but what I will do is we'll acknowledge Wolfheart Games. Shut up, I came for politics. Well, you're also getting the money gun. Thank you so much for the $5 or $3 super chat. I appreciate that. Yeah, let's shut up and move on. I wanted to address it because if I don't address it, people are going to say, hey, you didn't address it. And hey, everybody gets their fair acknowledgement of what happened. Anyways, let's move on because a lot that happened this week. We're going to get into Justin Trudeau, but one thing I want to touch base on is the Jody Gondek recall petition that was going on in Calgary. Now, A lot of people in the chat here tonight watching the stream are not from Alberta. If you haven't caught the videos that I've been dropping on the recall petition for Calgary's woke failed mayor Jody Gondek, basically Fat Stalin, Jason Kenney, brought in recall legislation during lockdown measures to ensure that Albertans had some form of protection when it came to our political leaders. That if we ever felt that they weren't acting within our best interests, we have the ability to recall in Canada. The recall petition, basically, though, it needs some work. I'm not going to lie. It's the amount of signatures required to recall somebody is exponential. I believe it's half of the voting population of wherever you're signing out of. So if you're recalling the premier, it would have to be half of the voting population in Alberta. There's Wolfhard Games again. There's your money gun, $2 super chat again. Thank you so much. They're uncovered in money. So you need half the population to get into that. As well as municipally, you need half the voting population in Calgary, which was roughly close to 500,000 signatures. Now, Jody Gondek got elected, or shall I say installed, with 175,000 votes out of a city of 1.7 million people. So to ask for 400 and some odd thousand signatures was a huge stretch. Now, I signed the petition. I was involved in tweeting out, trying to get out as much as I could to tell people, look, get out there, sign the petition, let's get her recalled, even though it was putting a stop to my bid for the mayor's chair in Calgary, because it wouldn't yield me enough time to fundraise to get my name out there. I feel like I'd be wasting sponsors' money in order to run a campaign. So I wouldn't have jumped in for a by-election. So I'm grateful in the sense that, of course, the petition ended. They didn't get the signatures that were required. But at the same time, I've got a bone to pick with the folks who ran the recall. Because while I agree with it, while I think that the recall should have happened, and while I think that the recall was a good thing, in fact, I've said on videos, I think recall legislation should be put in place in every province in this country, including federally. I think that when we look at the frustration that goes on with Justin Trudeau and his inability to manage a country, that it shouldn't rely on Jagmeet Singh deciding to stop propping up the Liberals in order to call an election. If we had recall legislation in this country, perhaps then people have a little bit more power or a little bit more of a peace of mind that they've got control over their leaders and can pull the trigger, so to speak, at any time to select new leaders should that be required. Now, the problem that I've got with the recall in Calgary is that out of 400 and some odd thousand signatures that were required, only 70,000 were garnered. I feel, and this is my opinion, so I don't want to harp on anybody who volunteered, anybody who was out in the cold, waiting for signatures and chairs, trying to get people out there doing it. They did a fantastic job. The biggest problem with the recall, I find, is that once you do the recall, once you petition for a recall, you cannot do it again for the rest of that term. So it's a one-off. So if you don't get your signatures, it's over. The problem I've got with the gentleman who started, I think his name was Landon Johnston. He did it in the middle of winter. He started it in February. There was no online advertise. There was no group started. There was no gathering of people online to get people ready to recall Jody Gondek. He simply went to City Hall, filled out the paperwork, got the petition started, and then after a couple of weeks, word started getting out from Facebook groups, from online media that, hey, this guy started a petition. He did some interviews, and you'll have to forgive me, but it feels to me like this is somebody who wanted to put their name in the spotlight for a little while. So they rushed the petition. They wanted to be the one who championed this recall of Jody Gondek, but they didn't consider the variables. This was a very poorly planned execution. And again, I'm not talking about the volunteers. I'm not talking about Take Back Alberta or any of those organizations that got on board. Cian Bexty did a great job getting word out through his organization, the Counter Signal. But it was very poorly executed and poorly organized. I think what they should have done was starting in February, and this is how I would have run it. Again, this is a matter of opinion, but starting in February, they should have started getting people together online, forming groups, advertising that we're going to put recall legislation in place. Put it in place in about June, in the summer months. And these guys should have been at every Stampede breakfast in Calgary, every entrance to the Stampede grounds in Calgary. And I guarantee you, if they would have spent the 10 days of Calgary Stampede sitting at all these events with their signs outside the entrance to the Stampede Park. Again, I understand that Calgary Stampede sees people from all over the world, but there's hundreds of thousands of Calgary citizens that go to the Calgary Stampede. If you're only going to garner 70,000 signatures over an entire recall campaign, you could have easily got 70,000 just from those 10 days alone, let alone the roughly 2 months that you have to get your signatures. This is where I feel this was a huge, huge misstep and a huge fail, because now we're stuck with Jyoti Gondek until fall of next year. There's many articles saying online she's not going to run. She's considering whether she's going to run again. Of course she's not going to run. She's got a 19% approval rating. It's not going to happen. Trudy and Freeland met at WEF in 2008, and Soros paid her, trained by the WEF. She wrote Soros' biography. Yeah. It's Terry's chiming in here. Could have had a lot of signatures at the food bank lineup at the malls. So I'm not sure what happened in terms of all the signatures, where they garnered them from. I know sometimes I'd go out and I'd see signs saying sign over here, recall over here. There were some local restaurants in my community that allowed them to come in and get signatures. But again, these are restaurants where people aren't going out to eat because it's too expensive, right? So the odds of somebody just waltzing in there to sign the petition, they should have been in malls if they could have been. They should have been C-train stations in Calgary, anywhere they could have been to get these signatures where it's highly populated. Stand outside the Saddle Dome on a Flames game. Anything. Now, again, I'm not saying they haven't, because I'm not sure where they went with all the volunteers. But what I'm getting at is that when you look at the Calgary Stampede, they always chalk up a couple of million that visit every single year. You're telling me you wouldn't have been able to get 400,000 signatures over those 10 days? Or at least a very healthy start on those signatures over those 10 days? If you know anything about Calgary, 17th Avenue is a bustling area downtown. A lot of left-leaning people that hang out around there, but a lot of outdoor patios, things like that. All summer long, they're open, they're busy. If you had people with clipboards walking up and down that strip, you know, saying, does anybody want to sign? Does anybody want to put their name on the petition? I just feel if you could have used social media to your benefit at a time when it's not freezing cold outside, when the city's busy, when people are happier to get out and support things, where you could have had some rallies, I just feel like we could have got a lot more done. It's, again, my opinion, I just feel it was a bit of a waste. Now, Recall Gondek was tweeting out today that, hey, this is still good. We know that 70,000 people are fed up. That doesn't help us at the end of the day. It doesn't help our ability to fix the problem. It kind of wastes recall legislation. However, it should send a clear point to this mayor that not even 3 years after recall legislation was introduced into Alberta, it's already been enacted against her that quickly. Like, that tells you something about the people running our cities right now. And a lot of people have asked me to talk about this corrupt Mayor Sohi in Edmonton, this woke mayor up there. I'm going to get to him at some point. So don't worry if you're up in northern Alberta. We're talking about Sohi soon. But let's get off city politics because it's so filtered into one group of people. Let's talk about federal, because the title of this stream is how Justin Trudeau has broken Canada again. If you looked at our videos this week, and believe me, some of them you should go check out. Today's videos in particular, I know they got heavily censored, especially our afternoon video today. I actually had to reach out to YouTube support because it literally stopped dead in its tracks. Censorship, they say there's no censorship. They'll tell me there's no shadow ban. But I keep telling them it's very hard to believe that when you've got a channel close to 30,000 subscribers and you can't even hit 300 views in an hour during a peak time that YouTube tells me my audience is most active. So if you haven't checked out those videos, go check them out. But when we've been covering all week with Justin Trudeau is this new carbon tax increase and the carbon tax protest, shown a number of videos of people protesting the carbon tax increase. I've shown you a lot of videos about Justin Trudeau being heckled. Now, the video I showed you about Trudeau being heckled during a press conference this week, people were saying it was Indigenous banging drums. Other people who had sent me the videos or links to those videos on Twitter said that it was people hammering plywood and it was construction workers trying to drown out Trudeau. Some people said it was both. So whichever it was, I get the feeling it was a mixture of both. But hey, nonetheless, it was funny as hell to see Justin Trudeau and Sean Fraser trying to get their words together while being drowned out by other people screaming. I feel like that's what we need to do to protest the government moving forward, is that if people, and you can check online what the prime minister's itinerary is for the day, where he's going to be, if he's going to be speaking somewhere, people need to follow those schedules and try to organize in a fashion to go and do things like that, because it's peaceful. It doesn't violate the law. It doesn't get anybody arrested or bank accounts frozen. I just think it's funny when they can't get a single word out. But people are mad. People are really, really mad. And I don't blame them. A lot of gas stations before Easter weekend, before April 1st, especially in Calgary, ramped up their prices. And a lot of people last week in the stream were saying, well, that's surge pricing. I call it price fixing because it's technically illegal. They have no reason to raise those prices. The carbon tax increase was not supposed to go into effect until Monday, yet last Wednesday in the evening, the prices shot up because, well, Easter long weekend, we got to make sure we're milking everybody for every dime that we can get out of them. I know that when I went to the grocery store, again, I spent the better part of my weekend in Sylvan Lake, Alberta, with my wife, my extended family, and we come home Monday to do our usual weekend, end of the weekend chores. So one of those is to go out and get groceries. My kids were going back to school after spring break. And as soon as I walked in, the grocery stores already had their prices changed. Bread had gone up roughly 20%. Butter had shot through the roof. Eggs were through the roof. Anything you bought, you saw that the price was adjusted. I remember my wife in particular, she's usually on the go real early in the morning, doesn't have time to make anything. So she'll have me pick up things like Pop-Tarts in the morning or something she can throw in her bag and take to work. I'll look at the Pop-Tarts at somewhere like Walmart, where they're usually 3 for $9. They were 3 for 10 on Monday. So of course, little increases everywhere. But when you get to the till, like, you don't notice when you're picking something off the shelf and you say, hey, that's an extra $1. It's an extra, 75 cents for something else. But when you get to the till and you add it all up, my grocery bill went from an average of about $175 with the current level of carbon tax pricing and inflation that we were paying on groceries to over $250 on Monday, just to get 7 days worth of food for 2 adults and 3 children in a home. Granted, there were some more expensive things I had to pick up, like dog food, but $250 for a single week. I covered a video this last week where we talked about the government of Canada saying that in certain provinces, it was frivolous for some families to spend roughly $300 a month on groceries. And I don't understand where they were getting that from, because I don't know about any of you guys. That's less than $100 a week for the average family, even if it's a family of 2 without children. $300 a month on groceries, unless you're eating ramen noodles or something every day. I don't see how that's possible. I don't see how it's possible. Let me get caught up in the chat, and then we're going to continue on there, because one thing I've always missed is the chat when we're getting on these rants. I don't want to miss out too much on you guys tonight. Can't wait for it. I want to know about the contract he signed. Gas in Burnaby this afternoon was $2.16 for regular fuel. Yikes. And that's before May long weekend. I hate to see what it's going to turn into next month. 2 days ago, my grocery bill was over $338. Not long ago, my usual months ago, it was around $200. See, huge increase. You do that 4 weeks, that's an extra $400, $500 a month. Have you seen mortgage rates? I'm supposed to renew next year. Yeah, my wife and I are supposed to renew next year as well. I'll tell you, we've had the discussion. What do we do if it's too expensive? Now, we've been in our home for just over a decade. So again, I've told her, look, if we have to re-sign on a 25-year plan until rates come down again, and then in another 5 years we maybe go down to 10 years or whatever, any way we can get some kind of reprieve is good, but it sucks at the same time because you're throwing more interest at the banks. The banks are loving the interest rates right now, just like, retailers loving gouging you on the prices. I ran a poll. I asked if you ever got a carbon tax check from Trudeau. 23,000 respondents and 83% said no, never. So in order to get the carbon tax rebate, by my information, if you're a family, your total income has to be under $50,000 a year. I forget what it was for a single person, but $50,000 a year. And Justin Trudeau said something like, what was it? 7 out of 10 Canadians are going to get carbon tax rebates. If that was true, which we know it's not, if that was true, that's saying that 7 out of 10 Canadians are living below poverty. He's basically admitting that publicly. Who can live off of $50,000 a year right now with today's prices? And I'm not even talking about rent or mortgage payments. I don't know anybody who could live on $50,000 a year right now. And $50,000 a year used to be a lot of money before you gave roughly 40% of your paycheck to taxes before you even went home with it. Then you go pay GST for everything you buy. You pay tax on everything you're charged for, whether it's utilities, whether it's your cell phone, your internet, your gas, your food, your clothes. Everything's taxed further. So technically, you're giving like 70, 80% of your check to taxes. Who can live off 50 grand? Sounds like math for the greater Toronto area. So I got a funny one for you guys about that one. Let's do a screen share because I want to talk about. There's a tweet I replied to. You guys remember Much Music back in the day? You guys remember Ed the Sock? Stupid old Ed the Sock. Well, he's got a Twitter account. The guy who runs Ed the Sock has a Twitter account, and I find it hilarious that this idiot, this complete idiot, and I'll only call him that because, well, he's shown how dumb he is. He comes out against Western Standard's Corey Morgan. Corey Morgan writes, the average salary in Canada is $60,000 a year. Again, not even livable. The average home in Toronto costs $1.3 million. In Vancouver, average homes are $1.2 million. And he goes on and says that you can't afford to buy houses on these salaries. And what's Trudeau talking about home affordability? Ed the Sock replies, hey, fart face. Yes, you can get a mortgage for $1.3 million with $60K income because it's amortized over decades. And as long as you can afford the monthly payments, you can get a house. Most homes are dual income. Monthly payment rates are affected by crediting rating. Moron says what? Of course, you look at the tweet. It's got 215,000 views with 166 likes. And I said, how's that ratio treating you, Ed? When you look at it down here, a couple making $60K each would take home roughly $6,800 a month after tax. With 39% GDS, their maximum monthly housing cost would be $2,652 a month. Even if we didn't have count insurance, utilities, and property tax, they could afford a mortgage max $600,000. That's pushing it. So yes, they could get a $1.3 million house. They just need $700,000 down payment. And that's where this is sad. Like some idiot who claims to, hey, fart face, I know what I'm talking about. He can't do his math. He doesn't know what's going on. Absolutely laughable. This is the left. This is where you say the left can't meme, the left can't do jokes. A guy who thinks he's a comedian can't even get his math right to say, hey, $60,000 a year, you can buy a house in Toronto. It's crazy. Tammy's saying, what I've done for the last 6 months was mail my gas bill to Trudeau Singh Guilbeault and Freeland, showing them my carbon taxes already paid $761. So again, we know from Pierre Poilievre showing what the finance minister claimed, or the finance commissioner, claimed about more money goes in than comes out, that it was to the tune of roughly $1,800 coming back versus $1,800 coming back if you're below the poverty line, versus, what was it, $2,800 roughly going out? I can assure you it's more than $2,800. When you add up your fuel, everything you purchase, your food, your gas, how it affects pricing in any retail outlet, it's a lot more than $2,800. That's a very generous amount that Pierre's giving to them over that. There's no left and right. The lobbyists make donations to both left and right to ensure their agendas go through. Speaking of which, if you guys again missed the videos this week, I don't know if you guys know about Jagmeet Singh's brother. Jagmeet Singh is propping up Trudeau, and every time he comes out with a post, it's look at these greedy grocery CEOs. Look at all the money that Galen Weston is pocketing. It comes out this week, and I was unaware of this. Maybe everybody else in the channel was aware of this at the time, but I was unaware. Jagmeet Singh's brother is a lobbyist for Metro Inc., which is a direct competitor with Loblaws. So the hypocrisy of Jagmeet Singh. Now, again, as I've said in those videos, I said when they did the vote for non-confidence in the House of Commons, everybody who voted no was essentially signing their death certificate. They were out of a job. Now, of course, we know Justin Trudeau has extended the election date in order for all those pigs at a trough to get their pensions, to get what's coming to them. But Jagmeet Singh is over. I said anything he says, if he doesn't support the non-confidence vote, anything he says about greedy CEOs, it's all bupkis. It's all a nothing burger. Because how do you talk about greedy CEOs when you're the greedy MP who's allowing the government to tax everybody to death? It's insane. And then it comes out from Marty up north that, hey, did you know his brother is a lobbyist for Metro Inc.? Follow the money every single time. Follow the money. Of course, Canadians are mad. It leads to the carbon tax protest. Now, I had a video come out this morning talking about Danielle Smith, who's come under a lot of fire. I've seen, and not just on YouTube, but I've seen it on Twitter. I've seen it on Facebook applications. A lot of news articles, left-leaning papers saying that she's not supporting the carbon tax protest, but she supported the Freedom Convoy. And a lot of people mad because RCMP officers showed up at the protest in Alberta to move participants over to, I guess, essentially a side road off of the highway where they were protesting on the shoulder of the highway. Now, as I said in today's video, Danielle Smith simply made a statement this week, and this is again where it was important to take context of what was said, which was merely, don't disrupt traffic, feel free to protest, just don't disrupt the transportation of goods on the highways, allow people to get through. So at no point did she pull a Justin Trudeau during the Freedom Convoy and say, go home, don't protest. People are saying, well, Pierre Poilievre said that everybody should protest this. He wasn't talking about the nationwide carbon tax protest. He's saying people in general should protest what the government is doing to them. The problem that not a problem, but the misunderstanding that people are getting from Pierre Poilievre's message is that he's telling people to go and protest the government actively. He cannot do that. You can't incite a protest. He could be charged if, say, this carbon tax protest gets crazy. Say an RCMP officer gets assaulted or pushed in front of moving traffic or something, God forbid. Pierre Poilievre could then be told, well, we're going to charge you for inciting this protest, right? We're going to charge you with mischief because you told people to go out and protest and then people got injured or worse. So there's this is where I say context is important. The people who organized this nationwide protest, they're doing a great job. And again, I didn't see any blocking of traffic. People came into the comments of that video saying they were blocking traffic. Again, I had to go off of what's being censored online and what I can see. Now, a lot of people asked why I wasn't at those protests this week. Again, during the weekdays, I have my 3-year-old with me, and I'm sure as hell not taking him with me to an active protest area, especially when the RCMP have assault-style weapons. Should anything break out or happen there, my wife would never let me live it down if I was there with my 3-year-old son. Not to mention it's on the opposite end of town, and should anything happen to my kids while they're at school, I need to be around for them. So it's not a matter of not wanting to be active in what's going on. It's a matter of I just simply can't be there. So I have to go along with whatever I can find online. And I went as far as using CBC video showing where people were standing. Again, I'm familiar with the highway. I didn't see anybody blocking traffic. I saw traffic slowing down, similar to what you would see when a cop pulls somebody over to the road, they weren't coming to a stop. They were just maybe slowing down to say 50 kilometers an hour as they passed. There were yellow pylons or big orange construction pylons out on the road. I didn't see a problem with what was going on. Now, what you have to realize about the RCMP that showed up, and a lot of people are saying, well, Danielle Smith should be doing something about the RCMP. Again, this is a misconception. You have to remember about the RCMP, and Justin Trudeau stated this during the Freedom Convoy. He's not allowed to give direct orders to the RCMP. Now, he does. We all know he has. We all know he enacted the Emergency Act and put pressure on police chiefs to move forward and trample people and shoot tear gas. But Justin Trudeau doesn't make those calls. Even in Ottawa during the Freedom Convoy, Danielle Smith does not have power over the RCMP to say, go to this location, monitor these people, tell these people what to do. What people forget about the RCMP is that unless it's a private province, I believe Quebec has a private provincial police force, and there's one more province. But the rest of them, the RCMP, are technically contracted federally to those provinces to assist in things similar to like the FBI, CIA would in America. And when they deploy these officers, that is done at the discretion of higher ups. It has nothing to do with the premier. So this isn't, again, something that's Danielle Smith's fault. And of course, again, if she comes out and says, oh, I don't like the RCMP, I don't think the RCMP should be there, I think everybody should be protesting more. Again, there's a line that politicians can't cross. And I'm not saying I agree with it, but I know Danielle Smith personally, and I can tell you that if she could be more vocal about how she actually felt about the protests, I'm sure she would be. But there's a certain cordialness to being the premier of a province that you have to abide by, regardless of how you feel. We all know that Danielle Smith has expressed multiple times how she feels about the carbon tax, how she feels about the federal government. Alberta has challenged Stephen Guilbeault on their unconstitutional methods multiple times in federal court. Danielle Smith does not come across as somebody who's sending RCMP officers to drown out the cries of protesters. Oh, people are having discussions about. Here's a good point by Tammy. The pro-Hamas crowd last weekend in Toronto were out. They beat up cops, black and blue, got arrested. Now they're crying police brutality. And Trudeau agreed with the pro-terror crowd. That's all a part of wedge issues and virtue signaling again. Again, I know people get heated when you see these things, but I guess what I'm trying to offer people in terms of advice, and this is what I have to watch whenever I'm researching these videos to bring you guys content on YouTube. You have to, my old man used to tell me whenever I'm buying a vehicle or buying a home, take the emotion out of it. Because if you get emotionally involved, things are going to drive you nuts. So when I watch these stories, I tend to look at them and go, why would Justin Trudeau stand with Hamas protesters and not Canadian citizens? Well, it's quite simple. If he listens to Canadian citizens, then his whole platform dies off. The Hamas protesters are the ones that are voting for him right now. It's all he has left. Of course, he's going to agree with them. Of course, he's going to virtue signal towards them. We've shown videos on this channel of Hamas protesters threatening police, saying that I'll put you 6 feet deep if you get in front of me, if you stop me from moving. Again, nothing that Justin Trudeau can physically control or give orders against. And I'm not trying to cut him a pass. But what I'm saying is that he uses all of these things, as Pierre Poilievre says, as wedge issues to cause the divisiveness, to cause little groups of people, so that when it comes time, I don't know if you've been watching his press conferences this week, but when it comes time to the election, he's already doing it. He came to Calgary today and completely lambasted Danielle Smith and said she's ignorant to carbon taxes. She's a mass polluter. She doesn't care about the environment. She doesn't care about people. She doesn't care about trans people. It's all divisiveness. Every interview he's had in the last 2 weeks, he calls out Pierre Poilievre for being ignorant to the environment, for being someone who stands against trans youth, for somebody who doesn't support Hamas. They do all this so that they have their wedge issues to virtue signal to crowds who eat that stuff up, who get emotionally involved. That's why I'm saying it's so important to take the emotion out and just, rather than get mad at what they're saying, look at it from a strategic point of view and say, why are they doing that? Why are they allowing these guys to protest and not these guys? Why are the police bringing Hamas guys coffee while RCMP are carrying assault-style weapons to tell other people not to protest the carbon tax? I'm not going to lie. That stuff makes me sick when I look at it. I look at these guys with their guns. I laughed my ass off when they were walking up and down playing the German army music while the RCMPs were doing their march. I think it's all brilliant how they're coming back with jokes, but at the same time, you gotta take the emotion out and you gotta say, this is a distraction. This is to take us away from the real facts. This is to take us away from the real issues at hand. I don't know if you guys had seen the interview. Again, I did a video a while ago talking about the constitutional rules that Danielle Smith brought in on 18-year-olds not being allowed puberty blockers or gender reassignment surgeries. But you can see in the interview with Justin Trudeau there, again, he has no horse in the race. He can't do anything about provincial law. But the news crew's filming him walking out of question period, and he comes right into the hallway, and the guy starts saying, Mr. Trudeau, do you think blah, blah, blah? And he just cuts the guy off and says, trans kids don't have any rights in this country. And people like Danielle Smith have blah, 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 blah. He doesn't even want to listen to what they have to say about taxes, about rules, about anything, because it's a hot button issue. And it distracts from his scandals. It distracts from all the money he's stealing. It distracts from everything. So that people get into these little clusters of groups. And like Napoleon, Trudeau can divide and conquer. Oldest trick in the book. That's why I don't, and again, if you guys watch the content on this channel, you know I don't agree with any of this stuff. And while I do get heated from time to time, to understand why it's happening is when we have to take the emotion out and say, who's really behind all this and why is this happening? Much like Jagmeet Singh's brother with Metro Inc. Why is Jagmeet Singh so against Loblaws? Oh, because his brother's a lobbyist for the competitor. It all starts to make sense when that happens. Speaking of people who stick with rules for kids and negative comments, I'm going to have an MP on the show on Tuesday. There'll be an interview with an MP, a very popular, well-known MP, here on the show on Tuesday. I'm not going to spoil who it is. But just keep your eyes open. It's going to be a great interview. But I do want to touch base on one MP here because something crazy has happened internationally that has been coming our way in Canada. And it's scary. Over in Germany, when we talk about the online harms bill, when we talk about Trudeau wanting to censor people for hate speech, we've talked about how that can result in the worst case scenarios, life sentences in jail or house arrest for people with hate speech. In Germany, this week, German police conduct raids against people suspected of posting misogynistic hate speech online. It's already happening. You're already being locked up for memes, for jokes. German law enforcement authorities on Thursday carried out raids across Germany against people suspected of posting misogynistic hate speech on the internet as part of a coordinated push to shine the spotlight in online violence against women. Police raided the homes and interrogated 45 suspects in 11 states early Thursday. None of the suspects were detained, but Germany's federal criminal police force said in a statement that another 37 suspects were already searched and interrogated in previous weeks and months. The raids were part of combating misogyny on the internet. Does that sound familiar? It was a day of action which comes one day before International Women's Day. We're observing how online platforms are increasingly becoming the scene of hate, harassment, and discrimination, also targeting especially women. I'd be interested to know just how deep that's going to go in terms of how they prosecute that. Should that come to Canada? Because again, if you look at the Khalistani protesters in Calgary a few weeks ago, brandishing their sabers and their daggers, which they have a religious exemption for, but they were using them to stab and rip flags in the streets and incite violence. Nothing happened to those guys. Today's day of action makes it clear we consciously go into the spaces of hate, identify acts and perpetrators, take them out of the anonymity, and then bring them into accountability. Investigator Munch said the initiative grew out of joint protection by investigators and prosecutors 2 years ago who worked intensively, on the prosecution of misogyny online. Before Thursday's raids, investigators have been working for a long time to identify alleged perpetrators hiding behind the anonymity offered on the internet. Now, again, I'm going to have a video coming out about this in better detail, so I don't want to get too much into it, but it's alarming that this is already happening in Germany because now it makes a case for Canada to bring this in. And we're already seeing it even with the Conservatives. And that's one thing I wanted to touch on here. Dane Lloyd is an Alberta MP who's put out this video talking about how the Supreme Court of Canada just made Canada a safe haven for child PDF files. You can't make this up. The Liberal government has had 3 weeks to respond to this decision and they've done nothing. Parliament needs to act now to protect children. Now, let it be known, I'm not a supporter of giant PDF files. I prefer JPEGs, but when it comes to PDF files, I'm not a fan. I think children's security is by far a huge thing. But what Dane Lloyd is talking about here is police having access to Canadian IP addresses without needing a warrant, without needing probable cause. The rights that if they suspect somebody of CP, that they can just go into their computers, they can find out where they live, they can obtain their hard drives, their phones, anything that they need. That's a police state. I question, it doesn't matter what party it comes from. If I like the Conservatives, if I like the Liberals, whoever I like, if you're doing questionable things like this or going against security of individuals, I'm going to call it out. And I think this is terrifyingly nasty for what this could mean for Canadians. If you're heading down the street, well, here's HonkTube saying get a VPN. I'm sure Canada would have some rule against it. They know people are going to get those things. So I'm sure they would incorporate something to combat VPNs. But if the government, the thing you have to realize is the same thing I said during COVID lockdowns, during all the bending of the rules while people were yelling "Govern me harder, Daddy" at the Trudeau government. People were so quick to give up our freedoms then and say, "Oh, it's only for a couple of weeks to flatten the curve. It's no big deal. Oh, just let them have these extra powers, these extra rights, the rights to freeze bank accounts, the rights to lock us in our homes, the rights to stop air travel, the rights to stop us from moving freely across our country, even in vehicles. It's okay. They'll give it all back, right?" No, they never do. When you give the government power, they never give it back. Any powers that you have as a private citizen, you should hang on to for dear life. Always. Always. The government will stomp all over your rights any chance they get. And this proposed bill from Dane Lloyd, again, I feel it could be very useful in certain circumstances when talking about trafficking, when you're talking about safety of children. Yeah, those things are important. However, that's a two-way street because essentially the police could pull you over and say, "Give me your phone. I just want to check through your messages. I want to look through your personal information." I have a right to do that. I have a right to violate your personal privacy. What does that mean for YouTube content creators? What does that mean for people posting their comments on YouTube videos, for when they put their tweets out on the internet, when they post on Facebook? You say something bad about Justin Trudeau and suddenly you're raided and thrown in jail? You're not allowed to show any distaste against your government. You're not allowed to speak ill of your government. Jamie Stroud, $10 super chat. There's your money shot. Thank you so much for the $10 super chat. Boy, I wished I'd never lost that bet because this money gun really sucks. If you guys are enjoying the money gun and want it to stick around past the 1 month of this agreement I made, throw a 1 in the chat. I think it's silly. But if you guys enjoy it, some people tell me it's interactive. They like it. But when we talk about people's rights, I'll get back onto people's rights, people having the right to their anonymity. I can see the ones throwing up in the chat. Guys, come on. I was hoping people just would have said no and we could have got on with it. You can't allow the government to trample your rights. You can't allow. Keep in mind, and I've said it before on the stream. I've said it till I'm blue in the face. Income tax was a temporary measure from World War One. Jamie again. Yeah, see, Jamie does this all the time now. It's Jamie again. $5 money shot. There we go. Thank you for the $5 super chat. I appreciate that, especially this week with all the censorship on YouTube. That's incredible. Thank you. But income tax was supposed to be a temporary measure from a war act at the end of World War One. It wasn't supposed to stick around. Yet here we are over 100 years later, and we're paying it in the highest increments ever. Ever. We can't continue like this. There's times where I've talked about my municipal run to be the mayor of Calgary, and people have said, what gives you the right to run for mayor? What qualifications do you have? I'm not a politician. And people say, well, I don't know if I can trust you. And I've said, I don't care if you can't trust me. You shouldn't trust me. You shouldn't trust any politician. You shouldn't trust anybody, especially Jamie Stroud with another $5 super chat. More cream. There we go. And there's another super chat that came in. I'm going to have to reload the gun. I'm out of money. But you shouldn't trust any politicians, even myself, because you don't know me. You know what you see on YouTube. You know my opinions that I say on YouTube. But you don't know me in my private life. You don't know. And that's not to say you shouldn't vote for me or that you shouldn't listen to my policies. But what I'm saying is trust is a very big word. That's a very serious thing, to trust somebody, to openly trust an individual and say, I think you have the best interests at heart. I've met Pierre Poilievre. I've sat in a meeting with Pierre Poilievre. I've shook the man's hand. He's told me he's a fan of my work. Told me to keep doing what I'm doing because he likes what I'm doing. And I'm flattered. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to ignore the camera. I'm trying to get this gun loaded so I can get to people's super chats. I'm very flattered by Pierre Poilievre, but I don't trust him. I don't think he'd be offended for me to say that. He's a politician. So I don't trust him. You guys shouldn't either. So when the government says, oh, it's just a temporary measure, trust us, the only answer to that should be no. Susan coming in with a $6.99 super chat. Me too. Again, there we go. Another money shot. Thank you. Thank you really so much. I can't thank people enough for the support. It's never requested, but definitely appreciated. I do appreciate it. Oh God, Sean came in $6.99. Let's go. Money pew pew FJT. There we go. There's your money shot all across my face. Boy, don't people love hearing that. Thank you so much, everybody, for the generosity. My God. Oh, gee, another one, Tammy Robinson. Derek, can we discuss the upcoming WHO pandemic treaty set to be voted on at the end of the May? It's bad, bad, bad. There's your money shot on my face, and at the same time, I will get to that. There is some stuff I'm following on that, Tammy. So let me save that for next week's stream. And I don't want to say too much because I'm not well versed in it at this very moment, and I've been following a lot behind it. So I just want to gather up all the facts and then some stuff that's ongoing with it that I want to get into on next week's stream. But I will talk about that. Thank you for bringing it up. I do appreciate it. Master of Snatch, my good old friend and mod jumping in. He hates this chat. I do hate it, Snatch, and it's all your fault because you brought in the money gun. It's instigating insulator coming in. No to environment emergency shutdown. Yeah. Can you imagine when all the the climate change happens this summer? What we're going to be faced with in terms of shutdowns, in terms of that's going to be the next lockdown, the next pandemic. You can't travel because there's fires. You can't travel in Nova Scotia because there's fires in BC. Right? That's going to be the next. That's going to be the next thing. Jasper, you son of a bitch. Shout out to Jasper Sunshine, $6.99 Canadian. Let's all donate to force Derek to use the money shot. Jasper, there you go. I actually gave you a little extra money shot. Again, welcome in to the stream. I hope Jasper doesn't get mad at me for saying this, but I just wanted to put it out there. I know Jasper did a video a while ago on his dog and his situation with his dog, and I was very saddened to hear that unfortunately Jasper's dog has passed. Welcome to the stream. I'm very sorry for your loss, Jasper. I know you put up a hell of a fight. Your dog put up a hell of a fight, and nobody wants to lose a family member. So thank you for that super chat. I really do appreciate it. I hope you're not mad that I mentioned that on the channel. If you are, again, I apologize. Just my condolences, and hope you're okay. I'm not going to be okay because these bloody money shots just keep coming in. I can't, again. Oh, I'm gonna have to keep reloading this bloody gun. It's where are we here? Terry Lee with a $10 super chat. There's another money shot for you. Thank you so much. I'm gonna have paper cuts by the end of the night, and I know Snatch is gonna have a good laugh about it. Let's get back to what we were talking about everything else. The money gun is fun. People are saying the money gun is fun. I don't know. So when people first mentioned the money gun, like when Snatch told me to do this thing for this bet, I said, I don't like it because it feels like you're celebrating. It's almost like a braggadocious thing. Like, hey, look, everybody, I got money. I don't see it that way. What I can tell people is anytime there's super chats do come into the channel, it goes back into the channel. By the way, we got a new microphone on the stream and some new lighting. So I hope the mic sounds good. It always goes into the channel. It does not go into my account. I don't do anything more with it. I figure if you guys are going to pay for things on this channel, then I might as well put it towards making things better for you guys. So I really appreciate everything that's come in. And thank you so much, everybody. That's amazing. The only problem with this money gun is now I forget where we were. We were talking about giving up our rights, and we were talking about how we got to be more careful about what we give up to the government. When it comes to the lockdowns about climate change, when it comes to the IP addresses that guys like Dane Lloyd are proposing, I know Susan says the fires. I tend to think it's arson. We know it's arson. There are legitimate fires. I'm not going to say that there aren't legitimate fires, especially in British Columbia. They face a lot of fires every season, but that's a natural reoccurring thing every year in this country. We have one of the largest forests that stretches from Quebec all the way to northern Northwest Territories through British Columbia. So again, I'm not going to say that natural fires don't occur from lightning strikes, from dry ground, from weather issues. A lot of it's negligence from campers who drop their cigarette butts, who do different things. So again, but when you go through Alberta last year during the provincial election, when you go through what happened in Quebec, where they catch people who have lit multiple fires, all in the names of virtue signaling to the environment to try and get people to be more serious about it, or just because they're plain old crazy. Well, you have to find it a little hard to jump on board and say to the government, "Oh, I believe that this is climate change." It's not all climate change, and the climate's been changing for millions of years. That's part of the paying money doesn't fix it. Doesn't fix it. Although paying money for some things does fix things. My brother-in-law recently started on a project near Sherwood Park, Alberta, where he's working on one of the largest and first hydrogen-based fuel plants in the province. And things like that, I always go, those are good ideas. Those are good things to keep the economy moving. The economy's moving on this channel. Another $5 super chat from Jamie Stroud. Oops, I did it again. Snatch says hi. There's your money shot. Thank you so much, Jamie and Snatch, for that $5 money shot. All over my face. Dinosaurs died after riding motorcycles around for years. They did, and I've been told that the carbon tax is actually dinosaur reconciliation money. I've been told that we're paying the carbon tax to give reconciliation to the dead ancestors of dinosaurs. So Jim with a $2 super chat. We're getting close to 30,000 subs. We are getting very close to 30,000 subs. I'm going to have 30,000 paper cuts. Thank you so much for the super chat. Yeah, if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet and you're enjoying the live stream, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Join us. I'm going to have another video dropping for you guys tomorrow. Hopefully another video on Sunday again. I try to make sure I've got some content for you guys every single day. And again, YouTube today, drowning out this afternoon's video, absolutely obliterating it in the algorithm. I think that's the first time since I started my YouTube channel that I uploaded a video and it failed to hit over 300 views in an hour. It was absolutely insane. So when I spoke with YouTube today, with their technical support teams, I made it very clear that, look, you must think I'm stupid to think that I don't think there's something wacky going on here. And I just said, if it's something with your system, please fix it, because this is embarrassing and it's silly. But go check out our content. And what do we got here? 552 watching. Between here and Twitter, it's telling me that we have 734 people watching the stream at this moment. So ladies and gentlemen, put up your thumbs up. Let people know out in the algorithm you're enjoying the stream. Even though we're probably going to wrap up shortly, but I try to keep them between an hour and a half. But here we go. This week, coming up this week, I'm going to do a video talking about Justin Trudeau's half-brother, who's sitting down with Tucker Carlson. I've seen a lot of people mentioning it at the beginning of the stream while we were loading up, while the intro was loading up. And I plan to talk about that. I was going to put out a video about it, but the thing is, the interview's happening right away. I want to make sure I wait for the interview so that I can get my talking points in about it. And I'll try to be brief with those talking points. I know a lot of people are saying, try and cut down the length of videos a little bit. I hear you. I understand. The way I look at YouTube is it's a political commentary channel, so I try to give my commentary, just so that you guys have a point of view to kind of take with you. Not really an influential point of view, but more to understand where maybe I see this point, because I feel like people enjoy that. And but I'll try and cut it down. I know the ums and ahs make people mad, but just like Justin Trudeau, and I certainly don't want to compare myself ever to Justin Trudeau, but as somebody with really bad ADD, it's really hard for me to focus on what I'm saying while I'm saying it. So a lot of ahs and ums comes out, and I'm working on it, ladies and gentlemen. Believe me, I'm trying to fix that for you. R with a $5 super chat. Danielle, get rid of the provincial fuel tax. We'll get other provinces moving to shoot the money at the camera. You want me to shoot the money at the camera? All right, let's do a money shot at the camera. There you go. That emptied the gun, did it? That was the end of the money at the gun. I'll have to reload again. R, thank you for the super chat. I really appreciate that. The provincial fuel tax we could actually talk about while discussing that interview, because it is linked to Justin Trudeau. What people have to understand about that provincial fuel tax, and a lot of people asked me my point of view on that. I actually did a poll about Danielle Smith in regards to her support for this carbon tax, and also mentioning that fuel tax. What people need to remember is that fuel tax was put in, the break on that fuel tax, which is roughly 3 cents a liter in Alberta, was put on hold as a result of low fuel prices and Fat Stalin, Jason Kenney, coming out and saying, we're not going to punish Albertans at a time when we should suck up those costs because the prices of living were going up. That was when Rachel Notley, the former premier of Alberta, or as I like to call her, the sheriff of Nottingham, had taxed this province to death. And Fat Stalin said, well, we don't want life to be more difficult for Albertans. So as long as oil is below a certain amount per barrel, forgive me, I haven't looked into the amount. I forget what the amount was. I believe it was somewhere around like $85 a barrel, that he says, as long as it's below there, the fuel tax that the province takes will be removed from Albertans' obligations, that the province would suck up those costs. Now, over the last 2 years, Alberta has contributed, according to Danielle Smith, over $7 billion in relief from that tax. Now, of course, oil is rising. So it's hit that benchmark. And again, this is legislation that was put in place before Danielle Smith was premier. So at one point, she's following the law or the agreement that was put forth by the past government. And I understand that she probably has some method of combating that. But a lot of that tax goes towards paying for things like roads, infrastructure. 3 cents a liter when you're filling up your car, even if you've got a truck, 3 cents a liter. And I'm not trying to advocate for anything here, folks. I'm just trying to make a point that 3 cents a liter, while every penny adds up in everyone's household right now, it means about a couple of maybe $2 to $3 more on your fill up than if it were off at the pumps. The real shock was the 23% increase from Justin Trudeau with the April 1st carbon tax. And I think it's important to remember that. Again, I'm not trying to give a free pass or a skate or say people should be bled dry. I compared our roads to Manitoba from when I was there in March and said, when you drive around in Winnipeg, and no offense to Winnipeg, I love Winnipeg, I grew up there, but when you go on some of their side highways or anything like that, it's pothole mania. It's like driving on a slice of Swiss cheese. The holes are so big. Um, they need to fix their roads. Now, Alberta has its problems with roads. Don't get me wrong. We're not perfect. Nowhere near in comparison to areas like, say, the United States, where they handle a lot of their roadways accordingly. But our roads are typically in better shape here than they are in some of the provinces I've been through, especially when it comes to Saskatchewan and Manitoba. Again, I'm not picking them apart or saying that Alberta's perfect, but when the taxes are going to maintaining those roads to make them better, again, as a taxpayer, I never have a problem paying taxes so long as my tax dollars are going to something useful and they're fully going to what I'm paying for. It's when you pay taxes like the carbon tax and it goes to wasteful methods like um, billion-dollar slush funds, GC strategies. The list goes on and on. Justin Trudeau's vacation fund. When you see the constant waste of tax dollars, and again, I'm not saying that this 3 cents a liter isn't wasted at any point. I don't know the books, but I have to have firm belief that again, we got $7 billion, 2 years worth of aid of that. I do understand we're in a tough position. I guess I'm trying to play devil's advocate and say that I get it. I get it at the same time. JT is doing as much damage as he can before he goes bye-bye. That worries the hell out of me. That worries the hell out of me. That is going to be a hot topic discussion when it comes to the interview that I'm conducting that you guys will be seeing Tuesday morning here on the channel with this very well-known conservative MP. Again, not going to spoil who it is. It's going to be a good interview, though, so keep your eyes peeled for that. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to the sit-down. People are telling me now about the gas prices. What do we got here? CYB saying 14.3 cents previous carbon tax plus 3.5 cents new carbon, 23% increase. Okay, there we go. There we go. It's all designed to make us broke. Here in Windsor, Nova Scotia, it's $1.70 per liter. You see Justin Trudeau mentioning this new food program for kids, which is the most laughable thing out of his carbon tax. He just raised carbon tax on everybody. This is what shows why the carbon tax is in place, why all of these taxes are in place, why lockdowns were in place. When he talks about, we're going to install this new program that feeds 400,000 kids across the country who normally couldn't come here for food or have a proper lunch. They can't have lunch because you've taxed their families out of the ability to afford food. You've caused the problem. Somebody mentioned it in the comments of the video when it dropped. You caused the problem and also offer the solution. It's win-win, right? Now, we know that this student lunch program isn't going to do jack, that it's not going to go anywhere. It's just, huffing farts for the sake of virtue signaling. Now, I had mentioned in that video that I pay roughly $1,000 a year in school fees. Now, $600 of that $1,000 goes towards my kids staying for lunch every month. The school purposely only gives my kids a certain amount of time for lunch, and it's not enough time to come home, even though we live close to the school. So I have to pay $60 a month for total for both of my kids just to stay at school, for them to have a supervisor, there. Now, the supervisor is on the teaching staff, and when you add up the amount of students in the room, it's over $100,000 a year that parents are paying for somebody to be there to watch kids for half an hour over a lunch break. Who's getting that $100,000? That's what I want to know. Because it's not going to the person who's watching the students. I can assure you that. The other $400 that I pay every year goes towards our school provides the supplies for kids, and that is a headache relief for me because then I don't have to go out and buy pens, books, all this other stuff. So again, I understand some of those things, but $1,000 a year isn't cheap. And that doesn't include my kids getting a lunch. They still have to be sent with their lunch. So when Trudeau says, well, families can't afford anything, school fees are through the roof. At least in Alberta. I don't know about other provinces. I don't know what other people pay in other provinces. I've only had to deal with kids in Alberta, in schools with our kids, but our school is considered to be one of the more affordable ones at $1,000. If your kids had to be bused to school or anything like that in Calgary, it's even more money. It's crazy expensive. But when Justin Trudeau brings in this food program and he says, we're going to feed kids, it's here, little Johnny, don't you see how much the government will take care of you? Your parents can't look after you, so we're going to do it for you. We're going to give you puberty blockers. We're going to give you gender reassignment surgery and pay for it. We're going to make sure you have lunch every day. We'll even champion for you to get made if you find that you've had enough with not being able to live a proper childhood life. We'll champion all those things for you. It's government dependency. It's the reason for the lockdowns. It's the reason for things like universal basic income. It's the same for things like CERB during lockdowns. It's all for government dependency. You'll own nothing and be happy, right? You don't need to buy your kids lunch. The government has that looked after. You don't need to work for a living. Here's your CERB payment. You just need to do whatever we tell you or put whatever we tell you to put in your body. Right? That's where we're headed. It's all government dependency. And there are people out there eating it up. Literally eating it up. I'm not going to say the guy's name, but there's a guy that stalks me on Twitter who is in his late 40s in Edmonton, lives in his parents' basement. He's got the pronouns, the flags, all the stuff in his bio. So you can tell what kind of opinions he's got. But he's sitting there talking about, I'm waiting for universal basic income because my life needs to get easier at some point. You never hear of people talking about hard work anymore or getting their hands dirty or trying to go and get some experience or training or better their own lives. Nobody's talking anymore. I was always told as a kid, if you want things to be better, you got to get off your ass and be the change. You got to make it happen on your own, right? You're responsible for your life. You're responsible for you. If you're not happy with your current living situation, change it. If you want a house, you need a job. If you want to get a good job, go to school, get an education. Of course, universities are brainwashing our kids these days, so you're not really getting the education there. They're stopping you from getting that education. There's other ways to make money. There's other ways to get ahead. Hard work, sacrifice, perseverance, knowing your goals and achieving them, and saying again, if I don't have money at the end of the week, it's not the government's fault. It's my fault. If I can't buy a brand new car, that's my fault because I'm not doing enough. Everything in this life, when you see a guy living in a $10 million home, I hate to break it to people, that's obtainable. It's tough work, but it's obtainable. If you really wanted that bad enough, you could go and get it. But it's how much do you want to the point of where you're satisfied with what you have. I'm not saying that material objects make you happy. I'm simply stating that everybody's in charge of their own footprint. Everybody's in charge of their own destiny, where they end up. You know, people who say, well, I can't afford rent and I'm sick and tired of being in the city. So move. Move somewhere cheaper. Pack up and leave. I'm not saying you're wrong, but I'm just saying that you're in charge of changing your situation. There's nowhere you can go in Canada where it's on easy mode. But there are solutions to the problems. The problem we're facing right now, at least until fall of 2025, is that no matter how hard we're working, how hard we're trying, no matter how much we're getting our hands dirty, the government is putting their foot on our necks. They're taxing us into oblivion. And until that stops, we're just going to have to deal at this point. I hate saying it like that, but we got to get out there. We got to deal, make the most of what we can, because like I said in the video this morning, it's darkest before the dawn. The dawn's coming. The dawn is coming, ladies and gentlemen. We're less than 2 years away from change, from real change. I don't even care if it takes Pierre 6 months to get rid of or axe the carbon tax. Knowing that Justin Trudeau isn't in charge anymore is enough for me. Just for starters. Just to know, there's nothing more coming down the pipe until some change starts happening at least. I don't have to worry about woke ideologies. I don't have to worry about this gender nonsense. I don't have to worry about surgeries and allied systems in my kids' schools, and you know what I mean? Like just to know that stuff is at least going to be pushed back a bit because that clown's not going to be around. Much like this morning's video said, I'm sick and tired of living in a world where the government keeps us poor, where people are always negative, where the news is negative, where there's nothing positive going on in our lives. And for being a man in my 40s, I'm starting to look at my life and saying there has to come a point where I get to put my feet up a little bit easier, where I start to say, hey, I've done my time. I've put in the hours. I've done the work. I deserve a little bit of relaxation instead of wondering every 2 weeks, how do we pay this bill? And it's that method for everybody right now. And that's part of the reason why I'm running for mayor in Calgary. I've talked about it before on the channel. I've said often, every 4 years, I'm sitting there going, I don't like the candidates because they're just more of the good old boys. So I guess I'll just vote for the best of the worst. And it happens every single election, whether it's federal, municipal, or provincial. Danielle Smith was the only candidate in the last while since Ralph Klein that I felt really good about voting for and saying, I got a feeling my vote's going to go far with that person. But Dr. Jordan Peterson told me when he saw my joke tweet to Jody Gondek, when he asked if I was serious about running for mayor, and I said, no. And he said, could you be? Sure, I can. If I don't like the way my city's being run, I have to change it. I have to be the change. I have the ability to get out there and fight and try to make a difference. And I'm going to be 100% level-headed and honest with you folks. I don't think it's going to happen. I'm not delusional. I'll keep grounded in reality. If it happens, great. I'm definitely going to fight like hell. But the odds of winning that, the odds of going up against the machine and winning that election are very slim. But I'm still going to give it everything I've got. Because once it's all done, even if I fail, I can say I did the best I could. I tried to change. I tried to change things. I tried to be the change. And if I can't get it, maybe I got to go elsewhere to find it. We need to start taking ownership in our lives and start saying, again, we'll take the emotion out of what's going on in the government and figure out how we can build ourselves up so that when this clown gets out of office, we'll be back on the path of mending ourselves, to fixing our lives, to being in a position where if we're in our middle age, we can put our feet up and say, we've been through our 20s, we've been through our 30s, we've started doing investments, we started putting money away, we started saving for our future. We can start to relax a little bit. Hopefully we get there. Hopefully we can get there. We'll see where we end up, ladies and gentlemen. But on that note, I'm going to wrap up the stream. It's been an amazing stream. I'm so grateful for the over 700 people watching the stream tonight. Our numbers are going up every single week on this stream. I couldn't be happier. So thank you to everybody who came into the stream tonight, everybody who's listened to me ramble on, everybody who listens to me yip yap in all the videos. I appreciate each and every one of you, and each of you matters. You all matter in this world. You all play a part in the success of this channel as well as this country moving forward. So please don't change a damn thing about yourselves. If you're new to the channel, again, if you're enjoying this stream, hit the thumbs up button on your way out, subscribe to the channel, turn on your bell for notifications, keep your eyes peeled for new videos dropping. Again, you won't always be notified, but I try to upload content every single day in some form on this channel. So make sure to come back. Supporting the channels means that billion-dollar companies like YouTube have to pay me so that I don't have to come on here and ask for you guys to help me out, because believe me, I would never go that route. But I always say I'll let the billion-dollar corporation pay me. And by turning on the videos, by watching them, by liking them, by commenting, you guys are helping me in the biggest way possible. And I'm just so grateful that an audience this size comes in every single week to listen to a guy like me ramble on with my thoughts and opinions. So thank you to everybody who came into the stream. I'll be going through the chat later on. I'll be re-reviewing the chat. Again, I see each and every one of you. So thank you for being a part of this. I hope you guys enjoyed the content we have this week. I hope you guys look forward to what's coming up in the next week. Again, ladies and gentlemen, if you're out there protesting this weekend, stay safe, follow the rules, don't be violent. The dawn is coming, ladies and gentlemen. Again, I hope you guys have a great weekend and enjoy what comes this weekend up until we lead to next week's Friday Night Fringe. You guys stay safe.